Hi, Shalom. Everyone is always looking for things to improve their life. I want to offer something that I'm sure did not come to you, at least not at first glance. What you should look for is more criticism. What? Rabbi, you kidding? More criticism? Yeah, absolutely. Criticism is the way to go. The rabbis tell us that better is the criticism of a friend than 1,000 compliments from someone who's not your friend. Without criticism, we really cannot measure our progress at all. And when our enemies flatter us, it's not because they want to bring out the best in us. They want us to slide into mediocrity, complacency, and sometimes worse. But when a good friend and a loved one gives you a criticism, it's because they expect you to see yourself through the eyes of others, not the way you look at yourself. You did well. And they said, we expect better because you are better. Why is it so difficult to hear criticism? Well, the obvious answer is because we're vulnerable, we're sensitive, we have a lot to talk about us. But I'd rather spend most of the time with the person criticizing. Why do we criticize others? And before I go any further, I want to point out that to paraphrase, it's not word for word, but to paraphrase, it's actually a biblical imperative to give criticism. You'll look into Leviticus chapter 19, verse 17, and it says, if you see something that your friend is doing wrong, tell him. Don't keep it in your heart. It's as if to say the Almighty God himself wants you to criticize. But again, it begs the question of why is it so difficult to give and so difficult to receive? Well, it's difficult to give because we could divide it into two. Into those that care about you, those that don't. Those that really do not care about you are also divided into two. So there might be the lower level where someone criticizes you, even if it's a valid criticism, but it is coming from a place where this person wishes to grow at your expense. So to put it a little bit differently, you could grow or you could put someone else down. So as long as they're able to put someone else down, that satisfies their ego that they're not bad at all because you're worse. So that's obvious why if you receive criticism of such a person, it's all egocentric, has nothing to do with you, everything to do with him, then why should you accept it? But even on a higher level, let's say people care about you. For example, it could be a teacher, it could be a spouse, it could be a sibling. And your teacher, for example, says, I can't accept this paper. Now, if the teacher's motive is very simple, that at the end of the year, they want to feel accomplished. They want to tell the principal that when 100% of their class did 80% or more. So even if the criticism is justified, it's not really for your benefit as much as for their benefit. Or if you have siblings that are squabbling and one sibling says to the other, you did this wrong, that wrong, whatever it might be, very often it's so they could be the better child or they could feel more accomplished. And that is why, P.S., much of what we tell our children is not heard. Because if, let's say we are in a public place and we have a younger child who's misbehaving, and we criticize their behavior. Say thank you, say please, sit down, stand up. You're not eating with nice manners. Who are we thinking about? We're often thinking about how we look. We're worried about someone thinking, this is how you raise your child. So again, the criticism is valid. And it's even to improve the child. But it's coming from a place of ego. This is for me, for my benefit, that you benefit and change. So we're not talking about that. Let's talk about criticism that comes from a real place. A place of affection, or concern. Why is it difficult to hear that? Well, very often because it's not given properly. Now, this is a very long subject, but let me isolate one aspect. When a person is criticized, it has to be cushioned and presented with love. The implicit message has to be, I accept you the way you are. You are good, you are accomplished, you are beautiful. However, there are things that can be improved on for your benefit. You could be even from beautiful to gorgeous, from accomplished to super accomplished, and so on. Let me break this down in really simple terms. They referring to the people on the internet or maybe psychology, for every criticism, give 3 compliments. Let me give you some simple examples so you could walk away with something practical. Imagine there's a fellow who's working on your team, or he's in your business, and he starts coming late. You could call him in and say something like, Bob, I'd like to talk to you about your attendance. Plain and simple. You're coming late. Or you could start something like this. You know, Bob, you've been with the company for already 12 years. You're a loyal worker. You you get along with people. And we've never had any problem with your work. We're delighted with you. But what's happening with attendance? It's saying exactly the same thing. The difference is between day and night. One is the guy's putting up his dukes, you're accusing him, and the other one, you're letting him know. It could be the same thing, a kid acting out. Let's say he doesn't do his homework for 2 weeks, send to the principal. So the principal could say to the kid, Mr. Shimon, you're part of the school. You signed before the school year started, you signed an agreement that you would be a good student. Part of being a good student is doing your homework. And we've heard one excuse and a second excuse. We cannot continue like this. So you lay down the law, and he walks out chastened. What would be if you were to say something like, Mr. Shimon, I hear good reports about you. You're outstanding in Talmud. I noticed you by recess. Man, you're a good basketball player. And in general, I hear good reports about you, which leads me to understand, you're such a good student. Did anything change? Again, you're getting the message across, but you're presenting it with a compliment, with more than one compliment. What do those compliments do? They not only filter and cushion, they also reaffirm. I'm giving you a criticism. I do have a claim against you, but I'm not taking away anything else. This is something that we have to get into our head with spouses, with all people. If we want to be effective, we have to learn how to convey it. So let me quickly summarize. Overlooking deficiencies, inadequacies, when you could actually help motivate a person is not an option. That's not good. Not for you, and certainly not for that person. So you do have to criticize, you do have to instruct, you do have to reveal. When you do that, though, remember to ask yourself the question, is it for my benefit or for their benefit? If it's for my benefit, there's a 90% chance or more that the criticism will not be appreciated at all. Even if you say the word, I want to give you constructive criticism. If it's in your mind truly going to help that person, then make sure that person knows that you admire them, or you affirm them, you appreciate them. And that's why I'll end off maybe with a wonderful story about the person receiving the criticism. It is told, I think it's in the Midrash, though I'm not sure. It is told that there was once a king who had the closest thing to a friend. He had a trusted advisor who had known him when he was still a prince, and they were exceedingly close. At the king's 20th anniversary, they made this royal banquet, and the king happened to be a very popular king. And many of the dukes and the aristocracy came, and they were giving presents. One of them got up there, each one poetic. One of them said, His Majesty's wisdom, it's amazing. Intelligence like Solomon. And another one waxed eloquent. His Majesty's courage, it's an inspiration to all. And someone else said, His Majesty, as great as he is, he knows everyone said the most beautiful things. The last one was the advisor who got up and he said, I love the king more than I love my own life. But I have to tell you that his toe is crooked. And everyone was just totally shocked. And immediately the guards got up to arrest him. And the king, it took a couple of seconds just even to hear that. And he said to the guards, wait one moment. And he turns to his trusted advisor and he says, what did you mean when you said that? He said, Your Majesty, if I were to praise you with all of the wonderful praises that I know of you, I could never end. So instead, you know what I did? I said the one thing which is not good about you. Everything else is perfect. Next time you hear criticism and someone says, whatever, this was not done well. Or, you gave a lecture, but you went over 10 minutes. I'm giving you constructive criticism. And say to yourself, you're right. But the other 90 minutes was good. Always emphasize that what they're criticizing, that's not good. That doesn't take away everything else. Could you imagine, I don't know if you had such a teacher, but let's say you worked hard, or at least in your mind, you put effort into an essay. You give it to the teacher, and you were tired, so you're very sloppy handwriting. You give it in, and you get back the paper. I will not read this. Your handwriting is impossible. I'm not going to grade you. Okay, maybe the teacher's right. What happens if the teacher would have written something like this? Beautiful essay, wonderful ideas. However, such beautiful thoughts should be expressed in a beautiful way. So please rewrite it, and I'll be happy to give you the appropriate thing. Now, of course, do people like this exist? Yeah, they really do exist. I don't know if we experienced it, but it's so different, so different. So when the kid gets this, at least he knows everything else was good. The handwriting wasn't good, but not my effort and not my thoughts. So let me end off not with criticism. Actually, a good criticism. You're beautiful, you're wonderful, you're smart, but you don't know it. You don't appreciate it. Let me criticize you. As a Jewish person, don't put yourself down. God loves you for what you do. And he says, from such excellence, I would enjoy a little bit more nachas. Shalom.